All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Orca UX Clinic #1. I'm Maddie. I'm from the Solana Foundation. And right now we are hosting an online hackathon called Solana Summer Camp. And Orca is the track presenter for the DeFi category. And so today we have Ori, co-founder of Orca, and Marius from Hubble Protocol. And they are going to be walking through how projects should be thinking about UX, how they should be designing their protocols, their end user experiences. And so I'm happy to introduce both of them to the stage, and I'll let you guys take it from there.
Awesome. Maddie, thanks so much for having us today. It's pretty awesome actually to see this happen, since the idea for this really did come from like a shower thought. I was like, oh, maybe it'd be cool to do more design reviews. And then maybe if we're going to do design reviews, maybe we should just do them live and then share them so the whole Solana ecosystem can benefit, and also be a fun way to interact more personally with some of the projects that Orca interacts with on a day-to-day basis building Orca. And so yeah, pretty awesome to have everyone's support in making this happen today. So Marius, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a co-founder of Hubble, and ever since I joined the Solana ecosystem, I looked at Orca as having this awesome UX. So I'm really honored to get a review from you.
Awesome. Yeah, let's see how it goes. I think it's the first time we're actually doing this. So I think we'll get a lot of great feedback, I'm sure, and be able to tailor it more to the audience as time goes on. But for today, I thought maybe we could just start with a little bit of intros for anyone who's online and might not be too familiar with you or me, or with Orca or Hubble. So I can start off. Again, I'm Ori, co-founder of Orca, along with Utaro, aka Raw Falafel. If you're not familiar with Orca, we like to think of it as your go-to place to really trade any fungible tokens on Solana. We use this slogan, DeFi for people, not programs, which we think really captures what makes Orca unique, which is this marriage of, bye Maddie, human-centered design, along with a focus on really efficient and secure technology, like our whirlpools, which are our concentrated liquidity AMM, which are really designed for high capital efficiency while preserving a super simple and very rate competitive trading experience for users. Personally, my background is in both computer science and then later on in human-computer interaction and design. Studied CS at Stanford, worked at Coursera as an engineer, and then actually worked as an interaction designer for a couple of years at IDEO in Tokyo before starting Orca. And so I like to think that my specialty is really working at this intersection of design and engineering to make sure that user flows and user experience are as intuitive as possible for these highly technical systems. Marius, do you want to introduce yourself and Hubble?
Yeah, so Hubble is a borrowing protocol where users can take a loan in USDH. USDH is this stable coin that you can basically exchange in Solana for one-to-one with other stable coins. And the reason why people would want to do that is because, for example, they might have already some assets like Bitcoin, Solana, ETH, and they keep it for the long-term bags, for the long term, but they want to use them more. So they can take a loan against them, and then they can use the funds to do other things like buy an NFT or buy other tokens. And we designed the protocol to allow, as a primitive, to allow people to take on leverage or to make their assets more productive. The product is a borrowing product and a stable coin, essentially. It's a dual product. And my background is I did economics at uni, and then I went to work for Bloomberg for about 8 years, where I was working with exotic derivatives. And I was working on systems to price exotic derivatives. And I joined Solana because it was in the intersection of like finance, which I like a lot. It's a very deep topic, and technology and writing code. So I just loved writing code for this. And nowadays it's more about this whole explosive industry that's growing, and we're trying to find use cases and make it usable for real people, for the real world, not just for like us, the few degens. So Yeah, that's where we are right now.
Awesome. Yeah, trying to make these protocols something that is really more relevant to everyday people and something that they feel like is like kind of safe and secure and accessible for them, I think is really what this UX clinic is supposed to be all about. So I was thinking the way that it could work today is that you can bring a particular flow in the Hubble product that you want us to dive into. I can actually screen share and walk through it just like that user, and then we could have a conversation about it. Sounds good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, well, Marius, welcome to the UX clinic. What flow would you like to walk through today?
Thanks. Yeah. So basically, literally, it's the landing page, the first page of the Hubble protocol. Um, we talk to a lot of users, and for some of them, Hubble is the first thing that they use, or they just join Solana. Not everyone has been in crypto for so long, and I want to see what do they see, or like how do they,
Mm,
what's the first impression they get? Is it obvious what they need to do? Is it obvious what benefits they get from this?
mm.
Are they surprised by terms or by arrangement of things? Basically, I want to be as self-explanatory as possible, and for users to decide within 5 minutes, do I want to use this? Is it obvious, or I'm completely confused? And how can we make it better?
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, let's do that. I've actually never, I have to admit, never actually used Hubble before this. And after we talked about doing US Clinic, I purposefully didn't, just so that we could really walk in with fresh eyes. So I'll actually then go ahead and go to hubbleprotocol.io in another tab. And let me actually screen share and we can take a look at this and see what it's like to be a new user on Hubble. That's good. Cool. All right, here we are. I'm a new user landing on hubbleprotocol.io for the first time. And the very first thing that I see is this big headline, supercharge your liquidity on Solana. So I guess from what you said, I'm a semi familiar probably with DeFi. Have played around a little bit, but I might not be the most degen person, right? Like, let's say that that's my persona in terms of like, someone that you might probably want to attract to Hubble. So we'll say, I've probably played around a little bit on Ethereum. Maybe this is my first time actually exploring an app on Solana. And so that's kind of the hat I'm wearing. So I guess first of all, I'm saying, okay, supercharge your liquidity on Solana. I don't have any liquidity on Solana yet, but maybe I will. But what does it then mean to supercharge? I'm not really sure. So I'm going to keep reading. It says mint USDH stablecoin at 0% interest against multiple types of collateral, and then subscribe to the announcements. And then I also see this cool, which is very mesmerizing and somewhat distracting animation, which I wonder is how it's coded, but it looks very neat. So I guess my first reaction is that I'm not really sure what it means to supercharge my liquidity, to be honest, or why I would want that. I guess like something that I might want to do, for example, like I guess with orcas, like I want to trade A for B is like a very clear use case that I have, because maybe I want B in order to interact with a different DeFi protocol, or I want B because I think like B will go up in price. But when it comes to like supercharging liquidity, that feels a little bit abstract. So now I'm trying to understand better like what this really can offer me. I understand the concept of minting USDH. I assume this is something kind of like Maker because it references different types of collateral, and that's something that I've played with on Ethereum, but I don't know which types of collateral are supported. And I'm not really like sold enough to subscribe to announcements at this point because, again, I don't really see what the immediate benefit is to me. But let's say maybe I landed on Hubble because, and this is something that's really common in crypto. Maybe someone in the crypto Telegram group that I follow for all the hot alpha is like, oh, Hubble is really neat. So I'm going to be tempted to at least click around a little bit more to understand what this is all about and why Cool Whiz Kid from my Telegram group thinks it's worth it. So maybe I'm going to go to about. There I see an FAQ, a team, a roadmap, why USDH, and a Git book. And honestly, I'm not really sure which one I want to click. It's kind of like a lot of choices. And I think any of the FAQ the team and the roadmap are all interesting. So I guess maybe I would just pick the first one. And it brings me, I guess I need to screen share a different tab now. So it brought me in a new tab to the Hubble Protocol documentation, which looks like it's also hosted in Gitbook, but I'm assuming maybe the Gitbook link goes to like technical docs or something. And so this brings me to the FAQ, which says, what is Hubble Protocol? A DeFi protocol built on the Solana blockchain. In phase 1, Hubble enables you to borrow USDH against multiple assets, which allows you to access liquidity in your long-term holding tokens. So this sounds, again, basically like algorithmic stable coin, I guess is my immediate kind of thought. But like, and then the thought is, okay, well, how does this algorithm actually work, and do I trust it? And why would I want USDH over any of the other kind of alternatives? But let's keep reading. Let's see, borrow USDH for as long as you like. Deposit multiple cryptos. Okay, this answers my question about what I can deposit. I assume these are all like these SPL versions. Yield positive interest on collateral deposits. That's interesting. Earn while you borrow. Okay. So you get to, I wonder if this works by Hubble kind of going ahead and depositing that elsewhere to get those returns. I'm curious if so, where and what kind of interest I can get. And I can also stake the governance token. I assume that's the governance token, and then also earn from liquidations by depositing USDH in a stability vault. Ah, interesting. So you guys also have a vault. I feel like vaults are kind of the hot thing now.
Yeah, it's like a primitive now.
Yeah. Okay. So how do I use Hubble? There's a dApp where all the services are available. Yep. And why should I borrow through Hubble? So I think this is really what the question that I would have wanted to have answered on the homepage instead of even coming here, right? Because someone who can understand what Hubble is in the first place probably also wants to know the why, and because they're probably aware that there are alternatives. So it seems like Hubble claims that it contains several features, or combines several features into one borrowing platform that increases capital efficiency. Because if you go long, Hubble lets you hold onto your SOL. Okay, one main borrowing vault. So it sounds like basically it's this combination of borrowing, vault, and in the future, so near future with August, there'll be multiple vaults so that you can get yield in more different ways. Users can deposit any combination of our 9 whitelisted collateral assets at an 88% LTV. Interesting. There's a lot of links out. I feel like if I keep going through all these links, I'm going to just like end up going very deep. So this is more deep than I want to go right now. And clicking this link also doesn't seem to go anywhere. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. But basically, it seems like there's the sort of the core algorithmic stablecoin use case of like borrowing, but then also a way to earn interest on deposits and also earn from liquidations via a vault with your USDH. So multiple layers of earning yield on top of the borrowing use case is kind of what I'm getting out of this. So I now as a user, okay, let's see, how do I feel? I guess, with DeFi, it's really hard to vet the claims of any protocol just from reading some docs, right? So the natural next thing to do is to actually, I think there's probably 2 things I would do. One is to check out their Twitter and see if it has a lot of followers to see if it's probably a rug or not and whether it's legit or not. Looks pretty legit.
By the way, I'm not seeing if you're want to share another tab. I don't see it.
Yeah, I'll hop back. Good call. Let's see. I'm looking at the Hubble Twitter right now, which does appear to have a lot of followers and looks pretty legit. But I think what we'll do is go back and actually go ahead and launch the app and get off the splash page. So let me switch over there. I'm clicking this launch app in the upper right corner. And I have landed on app.hubbleprotocol.io, which hits me with a disclaimer, which honestly is a little bit scary, as a first-time user. It's like, oh, this is not very DeFi. But let's see. I'm guessing, as a normal user, I'm just going to like check and then confirm. But because it's a little unusual, let's see. I agree to be legally bound as a user under the terms. Yeah, TBH is a little scary, but I'm guessing most people aren't really going to care, but a little bit scary. It also, like this disclaimer, I don't know if it's purposeful, but it like blocks the entire interface. So I can't even really like see what the interface that I'm clicking through to is and like why I would want to, like it'd be nice to be tempted by the shininess of the interface underneath to go through this disclaimer. But because I trust you, Marius, I'm going to click through this disclaimer. Maybe it could be like on the bottom or something.
Got it.
And here we are. First step, connect your wallet. Now I can kind of see what's under there and borrowing some USDH. It looks pretty shiny. I'm going to connect my wallets, a lot of choices, but I guess I'll go with my Phantom wallet since I have it open. I'm connecting, and here we are. Okay, so there's like a nice sort of tutorial that walks me through the different steps. I can deposit collateral, choose the token I want to deposit, and enter my deposit amount. Then I can trade more tokens. You can add more tokens. I feel like trade is kind of an odd way of putting it. But I see I can add more collateral, and then I can enter how much I want to borrow against that collateral. There's a section that walks me through all this. And then you can go ahead and borrow. This is, in some ways, it was nice to have that tutorial, but on the other hand, when I look at this for the first time, like I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, at least as someone who's like used any DeFi protocol before. You always kind of have this window where there's like one window where you enter some things and like another window where you kind of are told what you're getting out of it. Like Orca is very familiar, or as like even a user of like Uniswap or Aave or anything on any other chain, this is pretty familiar. As like a trained DeFi user, it might not matter that much because I'll probably just click through, but I'm hoping that there's like a good way to store this so that I don't need to see all of this stuff again. In any case,
yeah, it's just the first time.
Yeah, I'll try this out. I see I can include as many as I want out of these. It's interesting. Let's see, Staked Soul, Lido Soul is promoted in that I can get rewards. So obviously I'm curious about that as a DeFi user. So when I go over the get rewards tooltip, it tells me get rewards, which I'm guessing is just a bug.
Yeah, it's not it.
But I think I can guess what's supposed to go here. And I see I can earn Lido rewards. Unfortunately, I don't have any Stake Soul available right now, but if I were to more seriously use Hubble, I probably would do that because I was going to deposit Soul anyway, so I might as well get these rewards and also have it be staked. But for now, let's see. I can put in 1 Soul, perhaps. And here's the borrowing info. I can see, interesting. I feel like this tooltip is kind of useless in that I already can see that I'm borrowing 0 and paying a fee of 0. So it's not really giving me any additional information. Instead, let's see. I think I just want to deposit Soul this time. And maybe I want to borrow like 10 USDH just to try it out. And with all DeFi protocols, the only way to really trust it is to just try it with a small amount of money first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As an actual user, I probably also want to look around and see how widely accepted USDH actually is. And I might go and do some research on USDH itself, go down kind of a rabbit hole there. It'd be nice to have an easy way to like learn more about USDH, I think, from here, because that is kind of like the place where you have to compete, right? Is on that stable itself.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you have audited by right here in the corner. Interesting. Hubble is committed to strict security standards and has 4 audits. I assume that one of these folks have audited it twice.
Yes.
But there are parts of the contracts that have not been fully audited yet. Please read here. Ooh. I feel a little nervous about that as a user. Like, what are these parts that haven't been audited? I also, let's see, when I clicked on that link, please read here, it brought me to a Gitbook page that says you are not authorized to access this space. So now still a little bit nervous. Maybe I'll just share this entire window. That's better.
Okay, interesting. That should not have been the link.
All good. This is why we're walking through this together, so you can see what users are actually going to go through. Yeah, maybe if I were a user, I'd also kind of want to be able to like click on these or go to somewhere to learn more about these firms and actually be able to like take a look at the audit reports. I assume that those might be here, but in lack of that, again, well, maybe, you know, I'll just like, okay, now I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm going to deposit 0.1 Sol and like borrow 1 USDC. I can do that. Loan to value. Ratio between debt and deposited collateral. The higher it is, the closer to liquidation. Okay. I think as like a slightly normie user, this is actually like a pretty confusing concept, like ratio between your debt and your deposited collateral. You know, I'm already depositing my collateral and borrowing. So isn't that kind of like set already in some way? Is like one thought that I have. And then when you actually click this, you see that that is what it is, but it's kind of strange because on a UI level, like actually generally any UI element is like defining what the behavior of things that happen underneath it as opposed to above it, unless those things are very tightly joined such that they're kind of part of the same element. So now that I'm actually clicking on this, I can see that this actually helps set the value of the field above. But before that, I was not really too clear what loan to value meant or that this was a control for what's above. But I think it is kind of nice to have some presets available so that it's easy to think about maybe what some common options might be. I'd be curious actually for as a new user for some guidance on what like a good loan to value ratio is, or even maybe what some of the averages are among other users. I think that that's something that can be super helpful as a new user, is just knowing what most other users do. Because, you know, if most other users are doing it, it's probably a somewhat reasonable thing to do. But for now, you know, I'm like gonna borrow $1, so it's all good. Now I'm gonna take a look at LTV, loan to value. Oh, right, this is the same as here. It's a little odd to me that it's abbreviated here but not here because it's the same thing and it's the same tooltip. And some part of me thinks that, I mean, I actually don't know whether loan to value is like a very commonly used term. I think I'm probably not the target user here, but it feels pretty jargony. And more guidance around kind of like why you should be concerned around liquidation as this target user and like what that really means and what the risks are could be really helpful. We also see the SOL liquidation price here. So basically, this is the price that SOL has to reach for me to actually get liquidated, which I don't want. And that would be negative 70%. And we can see that these values change based on the amount that you can borrow. It's kind of nice that when I hit 75%, this becomes yellow to kind of give you a little bit of a warning, like, are you sure if it drops a little bit, you're going to get liquidated, right? I think that's kind of what it's trying to do here. Also curious, like why, I guess 15, 30, 45 are just like plus 15 at a time, but then there's sort of this jump to 75, kind of curious why those happen. The manually, interesting, I can play with it. I do like this UI. It feels very, I guess, pretty clean. I like that it's very simple, but has this little like touch. It does feel very Solana branded to me, which maybe that's what you're going for, and like kind of that familiarity with the purple blue space gradient thing, but it doesn't, I guess, give me a sense that Hubble has its own identity, but rather more that it's kind of like piggybacking off of Solana's identity, because it feels so familiar. And so many apps in Solana look like this, everyone like looks like purple and blue, so it's not that unusual, but that's kind of a deliberate choice maybe. Let's see. So just coming back here, mint USDH with certain tokens. This kind of reminds me of like a very Web 2 promotion. And I do want to play with that, but let's actually just go ahead and make this deposit because I've played around enough at this point, and I just want to see what it's like. I see I'm paying a 0.01% minting fee. It's kind of odd to me that the information about this borrowing action is split up between two windows. I have some information here, like statistics, and then also some information here. In most protocols, I'm used to seeing it just kind of below. I think it's okay for it to be on the right. It makes me kind of curious. I guess on mobile, it's just like below. But then
Do you want to? We had it all on the right side, and then it just there was too many numbers.
Yeah, I think some information hierarchy could be useful there. It's not about really what I want. I guess I was just surprised to see the information split up here because something like a minting fee feels maybe more natural with like this kind of information to me. Oh, but I see now actually borrow won't let me borrow because the minimum amount is 2 USDH and I need to have more collateral for that to happen. That's a little surprising to me because the button doesn't look disabled to me because it's still very colorful. But maybe, see, I need to put more collateral.
I don't think you have any.
I have the correct wallet. I see I have some USDC, but not enough Solana. And let me make a quick swap using Orca. Take only a second. This wasn't part of it, but here we are. Let's see. $10 of USDC to Sol.
Nice.
Connect. Oh, I gotta set it up. That is annoying. I gotta wait a little bit here. It'd be nice if I could do this within the Hubble interface so I don't need to leave.
There is a swap. There's a swap button on the top.
I see. I guess as a first-time user, I probably am not aware of that. I see it up there. And because I don't have enough collateral, and I can see that I don't have enough collateral for the token that I want, I'd like to have it. I would probably not really think to go up and look up here. I would think to just do it in wherever I normally swap. But if it were to surface something in line here that's like, hey, it looks like you don't have enough for how much you want to deposit, maybe you can like swap here. Then I would do it right there. But in any case, I'm going to check my wallet. Is my Ori the orca.so address. So feel free to send me any donations there. Okay. How much collateral balance do I need? Okay, so I need 2. Yeah, I guess it's kind of confusing to me that it just tells me that it's insufficient. But
I mean, I know the answer, but I can't. I shouldn't intervene, right? Because it's your first.
That's correct. I guess as an actual user, I have more Sol now. I guess it just wasn't recognizing the Sol here. It'd be nice if there's a way to like refresh that, since I do have the updated Sol balance now. Oh, now, yeah, okay. So I guess it wasn't obvious to me that the deposit button was disabled, even though it's kind of like grayed out because it's like really bright in the normal state, but it's still actually pretty bright in the disabled state. But now let's just go ahead and do that. Ooh, approve all transactions in your browser wallet pop-up. It's nice that this is like right around here, I guess, so I know what's happening. I see the estimated balance changes. I'm going to deposit my 2.44-ish SOL after I'm guessing this minting fee, and then get 2 USDH. Cool. Now it says it's loading. Loading is a little bit uninspiring to me. I feel like it feels very Web 2, you know? It should be like minting awesome USDH coins or something. Something like more inspiring than loading. Because I think there actually is some cool shit going on behind the scenes, you know? Like you're depositing all this collateral and minting a fresh new stable coin. That idea of like actually minting stables is pretty fresh and exciting. And just gives me something to look at when I'm, instead of just looking at this loading spinner. But here I am. I can receive liquidation notifications to receive alerts when my LTV is high. Oh, I see, notify, where we've been talking to them as well. That's pretty nice. What happens if I learn more? Well, yeah, I'm not gonna read all that because I actually know about notify. And I guess I'll just opt in. Okay, maybe I'll do this later. I don't want to reveal my phone number on this live stream, but I think that's pretty neat. Let's show how much USDH you want to. I would prefer if I could put my Telegram because I don't really want to put my email or my phone number anyway. I feel like that's just not something I want to do in DeFi. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The dollar value of deposited collateral. You know, like some of these tooltips are really not necessary. I can very clearly tell that it shows me the dollar value of my deposited collateral, right? That is just like what's in the table. So you don't need to explain that to me. And then we can open the loan management page for that loan. There's a lot to read here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have mixed feelings on these types of tutorials again. Like I feel like they can be helpful when the flow is not immediately obvious. But what's really beautiful about like a simple page like this is that it is pretty obvious, right? I have 2.01 USDH. I have $9.83 cents in collateral. And this table very clearly lays that out for me. So I don't really feel like I need a lot of explanation for anything except maybe like what manage does. But to the extent possible, I definitely prefer when a UI is like more self-explanatory, right? And I think a good UI is naturally pretty self-explanatory, like this one. Let's see, the fees, 0. Let's find out what happens. I click manage, and now I have a nice little dashboard of my LTV. This is kind of an interesting viz, where I'm guessing this is like the liquidation marker.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is a liquidation marker, I feel like it should look scarier, you know? It's like this kind of happy green. It should be like this red kind of like, this is where you get fucked thing. Sorry, language. Stability fee is raised. This is kind of yet another concept, I guess, that's coming up for the first time on the manage page. It's kind of interesting. Okay, this makes sense. When there's more minted, increases the cost of USDH and helps maintain the peg. Performance, no data available. I'm guessing I just made this deposit, so I can't really see. But it would be nice instead of just saying like no data available if you told me when the data is going to be available or like at least what data is going to be shown. I'd like to see, you know, what the charts are. Presumably there's some kind of chart here, and at least it could be like an empty chart that then overlaid says like, well, you'll be able to start seeing your performance for here in 7 days or something like that, so that I know what to expect. Liquidation info. Kill buffer is another one that probably could use some explanation. And the what if this is actually kind of fun. It's like a little simulator, huh? Can see how your LTV changes with different collateral. I wonder if this could be integrated into the page in a more natural place instead of just being like a one-off thing. Like you have the collateral here, so maybe there's some way to like integrate that, and so you can easily see like the relationship there even in a chart. This is also a little bit inelegant, I feel like, to have to like go through and just click these different things. it seems like there could be a single chart that captures like what the ratio or the relationship is between the collateral drop and the resulting LTV. And then I come back to my deposit here. I'm guessing this will be nice to have it be a collapse like this when I have multiple assets in my deposit. But for now, I feel like I understand what's going on here. I'm happy because I have my new USDH to play with. And as a user, I'm going to come back and like maybe check on this once in a while to see what the like potential yields are on the deposit. I guess that's not something I'm clear about, whether I'm like going to automatically start getting these yields because I've deposited this collateral. I guess I'm not getting rewards because I'm not doing like the stakes whole thing, and that seems like the only thing that has liquidity mining. I can withdraw from here. I can borrow more from here. That's kind of nice. I can repay my loan. This is cute. But yeah, I guess at this point as a user, I kind of just want to know when the data will be available for performance and what exactly that data will show. I guess I skipped the notify thing earlier, but now I want to opt in. I'm not really sure where to do that. But maybe that's a question we can discuss later. I do see the walkthrough guide, so I clicked that, hoping, but then this is just the same thing I saw before.
There is should I tell you?
Yeah, maybe.
Next to the settings, there is a button.
I see, I see. So I could go find it in there. I find like that's an odd place to put it as a user because this is where I expect to see like system level notifications. And because I first saw it in this interface, I feel like there should be a way to get back to it from this interface. When it's actually kind of like relevant to the information that I see on my screen. But this is just me. Also, not all of the things that apply to me could apply to all users, so take it with a grain of salt. But that's my instinct as a user is like I would expect to be able to reactivate it if I skipped it from this screen. In any case, I feel like overall that flow is like pretty understandable. Again, I'm curious about how to actually start taking advantage of the actual yield generation here. And the next steps to me are not super obvious. So I would probably just like sit on it for a day or two and come back and see if something changes about the no data available thing and try to figure it out from there. Or honestly, like if I was pretty serious about this, I would go and ask my friend in that Telegram group, like, yo, how are you using Hubble? And like, how has that been helpful? Maybe I want to like find some testimonials or like case studies because these DeFi protocols, usually it's not just like this one-off thing, actually. You're chaining all these different protocols for different use cases. So what I actually really want to know is like, okay, I get this like one function that of borrowing and like minting this USDH, but what else can I do with it? And that what else can I do with it question is not really answered by this interface, which I think is actually like the most powerful thing. Is like I can get what I can do here, but I'm not really sure what to do with it next. And that's what you really want to capture the users with, right? Is showing them why USDH is useful to them. So with that, maybe I thought we could actually like transition to chatting about just like what the experience is like for you seeing this in the UX clinic. And yeah, I can help answer any questions that you have, or we can also just have a conversation about whatever topic would be most helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you. I guess you gave us about 6 months worth of work to
Hopefully it was
follow
helpful.
up with. Yeah, definitely. I think we forget to look at it with fresh eyes. So this was really good to know. And so apart from a lot of the things that you say now, when I hear them, they like makes complete sense, you know. So I'm gonna go back to this video and take notes and get cracking. The thing that the big, one thing I'd like to raise is that you saw those disclaimers and then you saw the tooltips about the audits, and we don't we're still debating if we want to make this like a Web2 super obvious, super easy to use product, because it is a product that has inherent risk. So in that sense, I don't think we want to make it. We don't want to mislead or to downplay the risks.
Yeah.
So for that reason, potentially not everyone should be just fresh new users that have a few tokens to play around with. At the same time, it could help if someone has some tokens. It could help them improve their yield or improve getting better rewards, given that they're comfortable with the risks. So that thing about explaining the benefits, it looks so obvious now. You'd have to say, okay, now you have USDH, what should you do next? So yeah, these are my first thoughts after the clinic. You have to sit, you have to sit there like when you go to the dentist and the dentist is like, this is bad and this is bad and you shouldn't eat that and this is like, like cool. That being said, I would like to ask you, how do you think about the users? Like, how much of it is like your intuition and how much of it is like science? Like, how do you go about figuring out who should I build this for, and validating those assumptions?
That's a great question that actually is a really good timing for you to ask, because this is something that we've been formalizing a lot more at Orca and thinking about more formally over time. We started out with a strong intuition because there really was no data for anything on Solana when we started, right? There were no apps on Solana, basically. That an AMM was something that was going to be useful to Solana users. And we knew from looking at other chains that an AMM is something that already had product market fit, right? And similarly, I think with Hubble, you can definitely at least take inspiration from things that are happening on other chains, right? And so I think, honestly, the number of DeFi services that has like true product market fit, as evidenced by like continuous demand, like throughout different cycles, right? Like the number is fairly low. And so that's always like a good place to start, is like what's already working elsewhere and who are my like guaranteed users. From there, you want to think about like, okay, what does it really look like for Hubble to succeed in like 5 years? And so that's like a question that I would ask you now, is like, in an ideal world, what does Hubble look like in 5 years?
We would have to be this protocol that gives loans to people that need credit. So we heard a lot about this, right? You don't reinvent the financial needs. The needs are the same, or I mean, they can grow based on complexity, but the needs stay the same. People need financing because they, for example, let's say you have potentially some new clients coming soon if you make an investment to build a new factory, right? So, but you don't have that future revenue yet. So what you do is you take a loan and then you use that loan to build a factory and then you use the factory to get revenue. So right. The need for debt is as old as life,
Mm-hmm.
So debt is definitely something that we want to get into. So that's like where we want to be, this sort of like crypto native issuer of loans. And yeah, that's the shortest way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I think like loans are something that often can have this sort of negative association or valence, right? Because people are like, oh, I'm taking a loan, I'm taking risk, and I can get wrecked. But loans are actually very empowering for a lot of people, right? And so I think that might be kind of the message that you want to focus on when it comes to like the branding, the splash page, like that sort of inspiring empowerment when it comes to the North Star and the vision. But when you're asking specifically about users, then I think if that's where you want to be in 5 years, like who are the target users that you need to acquire along the way over these next few years to get to a place where Hubble is powering these really meaningful loans for people?
Yeah. So basically, following the thought process, people that take loans, they have kind of weighted the pros and cons of taking it. Like they've thought about, okay, I have some assets and I need to take a loan because I want to use that loan for this extra investment that should give me more return than the cost of the loan, essentially. So these people, they're not like people that just want to try out things, right? It should be people that have identified the need for a loan and they have definitely thought about what does it mean, how do I pay it back. So in that sense, it has to be someone that is a little bit financial savvy. So they know, okay, I know what the loan to value is, to go back to the original discussion. I know what an interest rate is.
Yeah.
I know exactly that I come here because I'm taking a loan and I'm going to use that loan to finance this extra activity that I want to finance. So they should also a little bit know that, okay, that's what USDH is useful for, in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's more advanced. It's moderate to advanced users, in a sense.
Yeah. I like that you have a very clear idea of what the long-term goal and vision is, and it is an inspiring one, right? Like people have been able to, or like society's been built upon people being able to take risks, and people being able to take well-educated, calculated risks is empowering. And that's kind of this idea behind DeFi. But if we like wind back down to now where we are, right, like there's also the realities of operating a DeFi protocol where you need to make these hard trade-offs in terms of who are we building for, who are we focusing on, because you just don't have resources to do everything, right? And so then I think then now is the time to scale back and say, okay, well, obviously, you know, Hubble has some competitors. Who are our competitors? What are our competitive advantages, and where do the biggest market opportunities lie? And so that's where I think you start with your intuition for what those market opportunities are, and then actually validate them through, I think, a mix of qualitative and quantitative analysis. So qualitative is trying to get a sense for who are your users now, like, you know, who are your power users, like what percentage of your users are actually, you know, doing most of the deposits on Hubble and borrowing most of the assets on Hubble, and then actually talking to them to understand like why is it that they choose Hubble. And you might also talk to folks who use your competitors and understand why did they choose these other options, and to figure out how to both kind of like what their unmet needs are that fit into the vision that you have for getting to that like 5 year down the road place, as well as like kind of what your strengths and weaknesses are now, so that you can decide which target user, like really understand those target users. There's like more on the quantitative side also, where you want to understand like where is the actual assets, right? Who are holding the majority of assets? Is it lots of like small borrowers? Is it a few large borrowers? Which tokens are they most interested in lending and borrowing? And to really do kind of like that market research, and kind of, what's the word here? Yeah, I'm not a business person, but kind of size that market opportunity. And then deciding which target user is most important is some combination of that market opportunity and then a deep understanding of who those users are on a qualitative level. Because, for example, you think that they'll, you know, you can offer them a more intuitive experience, or you think that you can offer like a more secure option. And that will build not only like this understanding of your target user, but also an understanding of what your brand will be. Because right now, to be honest, it doesn't feel to me like your brand is very differentiated, right? It feels kind of like Solana's brand. Feels like you're kind of trying to go for like this secure thing, but then it's also like got all like the disclaimers and everything. So I think once you understand, like, are you kind of going for this more retail user or more normie user? Are you going for like these kind of more sophisticated users? You'll be able to tailor both your product and your brand. My instinct for DeFi, I'm kind of rambling, so I'll wrap up, but my instinct usually with DeFi is that it's easier actually to start with folks who have like a fair amount of DeFi knowledge, and then build out that user base first, because that's kind of who already exists and who you can easily onboard before going after these sort of more reach goals of more normie users.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And I guess you can't have both. Sometimes your branding will conflict if you want to have one or the other. So basically double down on one and focus on that niche, essentially, is kind of what you're saying.
It is possible to have multiple brands, but it is tricky, right? Like, I'll just use a very Web 2 example here, but there's like Amazon and there's like AWS, right? And I think that the average person may not even know what AWS is, and that's okay because it's sufficiently differentiated, but the connection to Amazon does create some amount of trust. Even for Orca, we face this as well, where we have the trading side and then the liquidity provision side. And the types of folks that we see are very different, right? And so we actually do think of ourselves as this two-sided marketplace, and the language that we use and like the branding that we use is actually different when we're speaking more directly to everyday traders versus when we are speaking to liquidity providers. So we make a lot more assumptions about like knowledge of DeFi, et cetera, when we're speaking to liquidity providers. I think being very deliberate about your marketing, your customer support, and your branding when you're speaking to different user segments, and you have to court different user segments, as is also the kind of this case with lending and borrowing, is important.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes complete sense. I think, yeah, I'll wrap my questions here. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope this is helpful. What was it like for you going through this, Marius?
Um, I mean, it's just this thought process that sometimes you do it at the beginning when you launch a product, and then because you have limited resources, you focus on other things, and then you hope you get back to it at some point. So this is a really useful check-in essentially for us. So very, very helpful. And also, like, we're not UX expert. I'm far from a UX expert. So seeing how there's this framework that you use to think about things, also, gives me some hope that we're not somehow, just like using all intuition. So immensely helpful. Thank you very much for this. I'm definitely saving this and taking notes, and we're gonna go work through the exercise with the whole team, trying to improve it.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. And UX research and UX design really is kind of an art, but actually I think it's like mostly a science in that there are frameworks that you can use. And like I've definitely learned from a lot of really talented UX designers about the frames that they've used over time. One book that I always like to recommend, not sponsored, just one that I like, is called Just Enough Research by Erica Hall. I think she gives a really great overview of like some intro to user research and how to think about different types of like quantitative research, qualitative research, what types of research to use in different stages of your product. So that's one that I can recommend. It's like a thin manual. And yeah, I want to say thank you again just for coming on. It's super fun for me, honestly, as like you would know, as a founder, like we spend a lot of time just on meetings, and not always like
Yeah.
it's fun and not always practicing our craft. And so although, I never claim to be like the perfect designer or genius or like super knowledgeable about everything, this is one thing that I really enjoy. So I hope that it was helpful to some of the people in the audience too. And if you happen to be building a project on Solana and would love to participate in the UX Clinic, I'll actually put out another tweet after this on my Twitter. That's twitter.com/Ori the Orca. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment and we can see if this is something that folks would want to do again. So Marius, it's been a splash and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jody.
Bye now.
See you.